Hi folks, a couple of weeks ago I recorded a really short video explaining how to use the countdown timer on your watch to stop you in your tracks and force you to look around and locate your position. Got some great feedback on that video, but several people asked me, that's all well and good Greg, but when we've stopped, how do we determine where we are on the ground? Well, to be fair, I've got a playlist on YouTube at this moment in time approaching 50 videos that go into some detail, but I did think it was perhaps worthwhile coming out on the ground to record a video that shows me using that countdown method myself, and when I stop in my tracks, how do I go about relocating and determining my position? Here's that video. Just about to set off on this first nav leg. What have I done so far? I've parked my car down in the car park. I made a note of the altitude of that car park. It was 200 metres, and I set the altimeter on my watch to 200 metres. If you don't have an altimeter watch or an altimeter, it is not the end of the world. If you do, it's worth doing though. So I had a known starting point. I've set the countdown alarm on my watch to 15 minutes. I've hit the start button and I'm just going to carry on walking on my leg, and I will stop and speak to you again when that 15 minutes has counted down. I'm not quite at that 15-minute mark yet, but I'm getting very close. So I just wanted to share with you what I've been doing as I've been walking that last leg. I'm out to enjoy the walk. So yes, I'm mindful of what's going on around me, but I still at a high level want to enjoy the walk. So I'm just paying high level attention to what the ground is doing around me. Firstly, I'm walking on a track. I'm on a linear feature. That's the first thing I'm going to take note of. The ground is rising up incredibly steeply to my left, up onto some high ground. To my right, the ground is dropping away quite steeply, and at the bottom of that drop off is a stream or a riverbed. On the other side of that riverbed, the ground rises up again quite steeply to some high ground over to my right, and on that high ground to my right, I can catch a few streams trickling down into the main riverbed. That has been the same for the past 10 or 11 minutes that I've been walking. Similar, high ground to the left on a track, low ground and stream bed to my right, and some high ground beyond that. So I'm just taking these things into account so that when I do stop, I've got an idea of the ground that I've covered and an idea of the area that I'm in terms of what it should look like from a relief and a contour perspective. Do you hear that? Hope you really caught that. That's the 15. I stopped at about 40 minutes to get the camera set up. Hope you'll forgive me. So we've travelled about 15 minutes. What have I done whilst I've been walking along? What am I doing now that I've stopped and that this exercise, this countdown exercise has sort of started? Well, I'm still on a track. I'm still on a linear feature. So I'm still on this track, which is great. But this track stretches for miles. Trust me, I've walked it. It stretches for miles. So whereabouts am I on this track? I've walked for 15 minutes from the car because I know my start point. So I've walked for 15 minutes and I'm walking at a decent pace, but not really fast. I've probably covered 1 kilometre or thereabouts. So I can't be 2 kilometres or 3 or 4 or 5 kilometres down this track. I just can't be. So I know where I started. I've walked for 15 minutes, so I must be about 1 kilometre down this track. All of a sudden, I've now got an area to be looking in, from the start point to 15 minutes / 1 kilometre down the track. The ground around me is still roughly doing the same. I'm still on a linear feature of the track. The ground is still rising up to my left, but not as sharply up to some high ground. The ground is still dropping away to my right, but not as sharply to the river and stream bed, and then it rises up again. However, I can see that I've got 2 summits between me and the horizon. One, and then another one tucked just behind it. So actually, I've got something of a stepped high ground on my right-hand side. On the left, it just sweeps upward in a concave slope. The slope on my right looks to be even or convex, that fair slope. So as soon as I've stopped, I've started to gather information as to what is around me. The track that I'm on at the moment is climbing ever so slightly uphill, but at this point it's relatively flat. And the other key part of the ingredient, the altitude that I am at is 285 meters. Now I always 285 meters. I always treat altimeters with a pinch of salt, but essentially I'm around the 285 meter mark. Just think of all those things that I've said. What I'm on, what the ground looks like left and right, what it stops looking like, how far I've covered, the distance I've walked, the altitude I'm at. All of that now should allow me to pick that map up, dial all of those different factors in and start to get an idea of the ground that or the location that I am on. So I haven't staged this. I'm gonna stare at the map. I'll gradually fade out and fade back in because I don't want you staring at me for however long puts me under pressure, however long it takes me to come up with a position, and then I'll join you in just a few seconds time to tell you where I think we are from a location perspective, and I'll share that with you. Aforementioned map. Three, two, one, we're back in the room. I think I know where we are. I think I know where we are. Yay, that'd be handy, wouldn't it, given that this is a tutorial video. Let me explain what I did when I went off camera. I'm just going to put the map between my knees. I had a look around me. I actually left this location, left the camera where it is, and I just walked 25 meters over to my right, because although I knew the river was there, the stream, I could hear it, I could see it where it was, I couldn't see it itself. So I walked over there, just looked left and right, and that was really, really useful because I was able to see the bends up and downstream in that stream, and I was also able to see a small island in the middle of the stream. Now, it was a very small island, and I'm not going to hedge all my bets on it, but it was one part of a jigsaw puzzle. The other part of the jigsaw puzzle was the high ground up to my left. It's really quite prominent. Far to my rear left, high ground. Just forward of me, high ground. In the middle, there is a saddle. And what's quite prominent about that high ground is there are some rocky outcrops that are not only on the ground, but they're shown on the map. So I was able to kind of work out from the position of the saddle, the rocky outcrop, the fact that I'm on a track, and what I think is a small island that's possibly represented on the map. I was able to join all of those things together, as well as the bigger picture stuff like the high ground over to my right. I was able to piece all that together, and I've come up with an estimation of where I believe we are. And this is where I think we are. GoPros do not do well with close-up of maps, but this green line here is the track that I am on. High ground to my rear left, high ground to my front left, saddle in between. Here's the stream, and here, really hope you can make that out, is the island in the stream. That is what you are just there. So if I bring all those three together, I estimate that I am on the track just north of this river, of this island in the river here. So I estimate that I'm in this position here. Now the proof in the pudding, of course, is when I get my phone out, go to OS Maps and actually make sure that I am in that location there. It also ties in within 10 meters of my altimeter. My altimeter says I'm 285. This would be around 290. So it's within 5 meters of the estimation on my altimeter. So that's what that's the process I've gone through to come up with that location. Let's see if I'm spot on. Just firing up my OS maps. It's already found a location. Let's zoom in. I'm hoping that you can pick up that red, try and get out the way, that red arrowhead here. So if I move that around, that's the island I was referring to. That's where I predicted I was, and I am. And if I just move the map around and just scroll out, there's the high ground and rocky outcrop that I spoke about. There's the saddle, and there's the high ground and rocky outcrop to my rear left. So those are all the things that I dialed in, and I'm really fortunate because it was on camera to have come up with that location there. If this isn't working from a visibility perspective, what I'm going to do is I'm going to screenshot each of these that I'm trying to capture close up with a GoPro, and I'll actually just put a screenshot on the screen because I'm mindful it can be really difficult to see a phone screen in the sun, let alone a video of a phone screen in the sun. So 1 for 1 so far. You're doing well, Craig. 100% success rate so far. So I've reset the watch to 15 minutes. I'm going to carry on along this track another 15 minutes, exactly like I did on the first leg, observing what is going on around me, and I'll see you in about 15 minutes time. And they're off. Hear that? That's the 15 minutes of this leg now wound down. What have I seen whilst I've been walking? What have I been making a note of without becoming too engrossed in it? I've passed down in the low ground, and on my right was a really prominent old stone structure. It was huge, or it was a really well constructed sort of sheepfold and sheep pen. That was on my right. Shortly after that, the ground started to rise, the track started to rise, which it hasn't really done, to be fair. There's been a few kind of ups and downs, but really gradual. This, I don't know if you can make out the angle there, but this is quite a severe uphill. So that tells me that I'm going to be cutting across contour line, so I need to bear that in mind. I've also not long ago just crossed a stream as well, so I need to bear that in mind. Again, ground is rising quite steeply up on my left, dropping down to the riverbed and then rising up again on my right. So the big picture stuff hasn't really changed, but I've been able to pass and spot and remember some quite prominent features. The sheepfold, the stream, the significant angle of the track changing. I'm gaining altitude, I'm crossing contour lines. So they're the big picture things. I'm going to take a couple of minutes now off camera to just sort of try and dial into some of the smaller things. When I think I've got a location, let's have a chat again, and let me share with you where I think we are and what's brought me to that conclusion. I must admit, this was a trickier one. I do not feel as confident with this one as I did the first one. Despite me passing some really prominent features on the way up here, at this particular location, there's not a great deal I can see. I have just walked to the other side of the track, 2 or 3 meters away, and I've peered over, and I've just happened to have spotted, by chance I think, an old stone structure that started to be overgrown. It's all broken down, it's just a mess on the floor, but you can definitely see that it was man-made. I've spotted that, so that's helped me dial things in a little more. If I'd not spotted that, I'd have been much more it'd have been a much more difficult challenge. The other thing as well worth mentioning is that I'm at the 350 meter altitude point as well. So quite fortuitously, there is a 350 meter contour line, an index contour line, one of the thicker, darker brown ones that slices right through this track that I'm standing on. Now, I'm always wary about putting too many eggs in one basket when it comes to altimeters because they can be affected. However, I do keep resetting it at every single known point. I've reset it twice in the past few hundred meters, once at the stream and once at that stone structure that I mentioned as I was passing here. So whenever I spot something that's a definite, I confirm the altitude of that with the altimeter on my watch. If it's not correct, I change it on my watch. It should be constantly up to date, maybe 5 meters out or so. So to be perfectly honest, it's that I've drawn my conclusion from in terms of where we are at the moment. And I'm not going to show you the map on camera like I did last time. It's really hard to pick up. So I'll put a screenshot up on screen. But I'm annotating now on the screen. You can see the green track. You can see the words incised stone. And then just below the I and the N of incised, you'll notice there's a thick brown contour line bisecting that track that I am on. And I'm going to put edge some bets and put some money on the fact that I am on that point where the brown contour line, 350 metre contour line, bisects that track. So let's dig the old camera out. Let's go to OS Maps. Let's look for location. Hey! I hope this picks it up on camera. I'm feeling very smug. I do hope that picks it up, but if it doesn't, I'm going to take a screenshot now. There you go, I've got a screenshot of it for the video afterwards. But hopefully you can see that red arrowhead. You can see the word incised. You can see that brown contour line running, the thick brown contour line running through the first eye of incised, bisecting the track, and there is that red arrowhead. It looks like it's actually a fraction above 350, but to be, oh, screen's gone off. But to be perfectly honest, my altimeter is only accurate to 5 meters. So it's always going to be 5 meters degree or margin of error, but quite happy with that. That felt much more like a shot in the dark, to be honest, than the last one. However, I might be being unfair on myself because I'm dialing all the points in. I'm resetting the altimeter, which is something that so many people overlook. If you've got an altimeter, if you wear one, every single time you pass a known, confirmed, 101% certain point, check the altitude of that with your watch. If your watch is out, change it, because the building, the stream, that's not moving location, that's not increasing or decreasing elevation. It's the area of margin in your altimeter, so change that and keep it up to date. And I've been doing that. So actually, was it pot luck? Probably not, to be perfectly honest with myself. It was probably the fact that I've kept my altimeter up to date. So when I get to places like this that are actually much harder to relocate on, I know that that's going to be less inaccurate than it could be. Let's dial in the next 15 meters. And I shall see you over there. The watch has just beeped, didn't catch it on camera this time. I was too busy daydreaming, talking to the dog. So I've walked probably about another 12 or 13 minutes further on. Then I had to stop to pick up a couple of cryptocurrency deposits that the dog had made. So I kind of settled with where we've stopped here. Altimeter says we are at 390 meters. Remember, it was confirmed and set 12 or 13 minutes ago. So I'm quite happy with that 390 meters. The track that I'm on is still climbing, but it's really, really gradual. So it's not going to be crossing many contour lines for some considerable time. Although I can see off in the distance behind the camera, it rises again. But at the moment, fairly flat. The big picture stuff, where the ground is, where the river is, all of that is exactly the same. So this is where we've stopped at. And I'm looking around me, and there are certain things that are jumping out at me. One, there is not much height difference between the track and the stream, which has been quite unusual so far. So I'm starting to get fairly close to the stream, to the water level. Secondly, there's a large kind of, I'm not going to say it's perfectly flat, but I suspect when I look at the map, it's going to jump out at me, this area, because it's quite flat, both this side of the stream and the far side of the stream. And then it gets steep. It gets really steep because there are some crags, you know, some rock crags, some rock faces sticking out the far side of this flat area that I've spoken about. A couple of really interesting features though. One is these huge mounds to my right-hand side. When I was approaching them, I was going to be expecting to see some ring contours, but I'm not. What I am seeing is that they're marked up as hut circles. I mean, these things are huge. I definitely thought I'd see them as ring contours, but they're not. They're marked up as hut circles. So they're really prominent. Essentially, there's a really unusual piece of high ground in the middle of nowhere, right up to the edge of the stream. But the other thing that I almost missed was that just in front of these hut circles, there's the main stream. But running parallel to that and forming a Y junction is another much smaller stream. So I've positioned myself right above that, looking down onto that formation of a Y stream junction. So all of those things coupled together. Let's have a look at the map. Get it orientated. Okay, so on the screen now you're seeing the word hut circle. You can see the green track that I'm on. You can see the stream bed, and I hope you're able to pick out, if you look really closely, there is a point right in the center of the screenshot where there is the prominent stream, and then there is a much smaller stream joining it, and that's, I believe, is the Y junction that I'm stood above. So I am going to say that I am at the 390 meter contour line where it cuts across that track, or within 5 or 10 meters of it because of the inaccuracy in my watch. So that's the area I'm annotating on the screen now where I believe I am stood. Moment of truth, let's get the phone out. OS Maps. It's taken a while to find it. Okay, found it. There we go. Again, I'm not entirely sure this is going to be picked up on camera, so I am going to make sure that I screenshot this, but hopefully you can see the red arrowhead. You can see where that smaller stream is joining the larger stream, and as I said, I am just about it. It's probably put me around 390 to 400, so probably around the 395 it's saying, but again my watch is only accurate to I believe 5 or 10 meters, but that's good enough for government work. I'm happy with that. You've probably realised, or maybe you haven't, but on none of the past 3 legs have I taken my compass out. Not because I don't carry a compass, there it is, right? Not because I don't know how to use a compass, and not because I don't believe that there is a place for using a compass in this sort of thing. The reason I haven't used it is quite simple. I haven't needed to. The area around me and the features and the fact that I'm constantly kind of keeping a high level overview of what I'm passing, what the ground looks like, the fact that I am tuning into relatively small detail, but put a lot of those small details together, you get a lot of small details. The fact that I've used all of these things, I'd like to think that I've just shown that by simply relating the ground to the map to the ground, not needing to use a compass, I've been able to almost perfectly pinpoint my location just by looking around me and interpreting what that's telling me to the map and vice versa. I've no need today, on this occasion, to complicate things anymore by using a compass. That is not to say there is not a time and a place for using that, and indeed if there hadn't been as many features, I may have been needing to take some bearings from distant features and draw lines and intersect them back to this linear feature that I've been on. Haven't needed to do it. Why complicate things? Although I would say you still need to know how to use those things and do those things. But on today's occasion, I haven't needed to do so. That's 3 for 3 so far. As I mentioned at the beginning of this video, if you want to see that playlist that contains a whole load more hints, tips, tricks, ideas, and an exercise you can undertake, it's appearing up on the screen now. See you in the next video. Don't get lost.